The city hums its usual evening symphony around me, a mix of distant sirens, car horns, and the murmur of conversations fading into the twilight. My heels click a steady rhythm on the cracked pavement, a familiar comfort after a long day of consultations. The cool autumn air nips at my exposed skin, urging me to quicken my pace towards the warmth of my apartment. My mind drifts, replaying snippets of patient stories, the weight of their anxieties still clinging to me like a fine dust. I glance down, lost in thought, and then I see it, a dark leather wallet lying innocently near the curb, a stark contrast against the grimy concrete. It looks expensive, out of place. My first instinct is a fleeting annoyance, another piece of urban detritus. But something about its pristine condition, the way the light catches the subtle sheen of the leather, makes me pause. I bend down, my fingers brushing against the cold, smooth material. A quick glance around confirms no one else seems to have noticed. My hand closes around it, a sudden, unexpected weight settling in my palm. This isn't just a lost wallet. I feel it, a cold premonition snaking up my spine. This is something else entirely. The weight of the wallet in my hand feels disproportionate to its size, a dense block of expensive leather that seems to absorb the last vestiges of the streetlight's glow. My fingers trace the fine stitching, the subtle texture, a craftsmanship far beyond anything I typically encounter in my quiet, predictable life as a therapist. The city's cacophony suddenly feels muted, distant, as if a soundproof barrier has descended around this singular, unexpected object. I stand there for a moment, the chill of the evening air no longer my primary concern, replaced instead by a prickle of unease that starts at my fingertips and spreads rapidly through my arm. This isn't a cheap, mass-produced item. It speaks of bespoke quality, of a world far removed from my own. My apartment building looms ahead, its familiar brick facade a beacon of normalcy, yet the wallet in my grasp feels like a foreign body, an alien artifact I've inadvertently picked up. I quicken my pace, the urge to get inside, to examine this object in the privacy of my own space, overriding any lingering hesitation. The thought of simply leaving it there, a dark smudge on the urban landscape, feels wrong, a betrayal of some unspoken civic duty. Besides, a part of me, the part that thrives on solving puzzles and understanding human complexities, is undeniably curious. What kind of person carries such a wallet? And how could they have been so careless as to lose it on a busy city street? Once inside, the familiar click of the lock behind me provides a small measure of comfort, a temporary shield against the unknown. I toss my keys onto the small table by the door, shedding my coat, my gaze never truly leaving the wallet now resting on the polished wood of my kitchen island. The overhead light casts a harsh, revealing glow, highlighting every detail of the dark leather. My heart thumps a little faster than usual, a nervous flutter that I attribute to the unexpectedness of the find, rather than any genuine sense of impending danger. It's just a wallet, I tell myself, a simple lost item that needs to be returned. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the inevitable task of looking through its contents for identification. My fingers, still slightly cold from the evening air, carefully unfasten the clasp. The leather yields with a soft, almost luxurious sigh. Inside, a neat stack of crisp $100 bills immediately catches my eye. Far more cash than I've ever carried at one time. My breath hitches. This isn't just a wallet. It's a small fortune. The sheer volume of money makes my earlier unease sharpen into a distinct cold knot in my stomach. This changes things, elevates the stakes from a simple good deed to something far more significant. Beneath the money, a driver's license stares back at me. The face in the photo is stern, unsmiling, with eyes that seem to hold a lifetime of unspoken stories. The name, etched in bold letters, is unfamiliar. Silas Thorne. The address listed is in an affluent, secluded part of the city, a neighborhood of sprawling estates and high walls, a world away from my modest apartment. My gaze lingers on the photo, on the sharp angles of his jaw, the faint scar above his left eyebrow. There's an undeniable intensity in his expression, a gravitas that suggests a man accustomed to command, to being obeyed without question. The other cards are equally telling. a platinum credit card with an impossibly high limit, a membership to an exclusive, members-only club whose name I vaguely recognize from hushed conversations in the news, and a business card, stark and minimalist, bearing only a name and a single, untraceable phone number. No company logo, no title, just Silas Thorne. The lack of overt branding, the understated power emanating from each item, speaks volumes. This isn't a man who needs to advertise his affiliations. His presence alone is enough. The air in my kitchen suddenly feels heavy, charged with an unspoken tension. My initial thought of simply dropping it off at the nearest police station or mailing it to the address quickly dissipates. The sheer amount of cash, the aura of the man in the photo, the understated but undeniable power of the cards, it all screams, handle with extreme caution. This isn't a lost wallet. It's a piece of a very large, very intricate puzzle, and I, Evelyn Reed, have just stumbled upon it. My hands, which moments ago were merely cold, now feel clammy, a fine tremor running through them. The quiet hum of my refrigerator suddenly sounds like a menacing growl in the stillness of my apartment. I pace the small confines of my living room, the wallet still clutched in my hand, its presence a tangible weight. My mind races, trying to reconcile the simple act of finding a lost item with the complex, potentially dangerous implications now unfolding before me. What if this man is dangerous? What if he's already looking for it? What if someone else finds out I have it? The questions cascade, each one more unsettling than the last, painting a vivid picture of a world I know nothing about, a world I have inadvertently brushed against. My quiet evening has been irrevocably altered. The ethical dilemma is clear: return it or ignore it. My moral compass, honed by years of helping others navigate their own complex choices, points firmly towards returning it. It's the right thing to do, the only thing to do. But a primal instinct, a whisper of caution, urges me to consider the risks. The man in the photo doesn't look like someone who takes kindly to inconvenience, let alone the loss of something so clearly valuable. My empathy, usually my greatest strength, now feels like a potential vulnerability, a soft spot in a hard world. I pull out my phone, my thumb hovering over the search bar. Silas Thorne. The name feels heavy on my tongue, a name that resonates with a certain kind of power. I hesitate, a sudden fear of what I might uncover, what dark corners of the internet his name might lead me to. Ignorance, in this moment, feels like a safer, more comfortable option. But the therapist in me, the part that seeks understanding and resolution, pushes back. I need to know who this man is, what I'm dealing with. The screen glows, reflecting my anxious face. The search results are sparse, almost eerily so. A few old, obscure articles about real estate dealings, a mention in a society column from years ago, but nothing concrete, nothing that paints a clear picture of the man behind the stern gaze. It's as if he exists in the shadows. His presence felt more than seen, his influence whispered rather than proclaimed. This lack of public information, in an age where everyone's life is meticulously documented online, is more unsettling than any scandalous headline could have been. It suggests a deliberate opacity, a carefully constructed veil. I put the wallet down, placing it carefully on the coffee table, as if it might explode if handled too roughly. My gaze drifts to the window, to the city lights twinkling in the distance, a million tiny lives unfolding, oblivious to the small, silent drama playing out in my living room. I feel a sudden, profound sense of isolation, a realization that I am utterly alone in this, a solitary figure holding a secret that could unravel my carefully constructed world. The thought sends a shiver down my spine, a cold premonition of what might lie ahead. Sleep feels like an impossible luxury. Every creak of the old building, every distant siren, every rustle of leaves outside my window is amplified, transformed into a potential threat. My mind replays the image of Silas Thorne's face, those piercing eyes, the unyielding set of his jaw. I imagine him, somewhere out there, realizing his loss, his frustration mounting, his resources undoubtedly vast. The thought of him, or someone connected to him, coming to my door, sends a jolt of pure adrenaline through me. My peaceful apartment has become a cage of my own making. The morning light, usually a welcome sight, feels harsh and unforgiving, stripping away the comforting illusions of the night. The wallet still sits on the coffee table, a dark, undeniable presence. My resolve to return it remains, but it's now tinged with a deep-seated apprehension. I can't just mail it. The personal nature of the items, the sheer value, demands a more direct approach. But how does one approach a man like Silas Thorne? My usual methods of communication, my gentle, empathetic approach, feel utterly inadequate in this new, unsettling context. I decide on a plan, a cautious, calculated approach. I'll call the number on the business card. It's the most direct, least intrusive way to make contact. My hand trembles slightly as I pick up my phone, the digits feeling heavy beneath my thumb. Each ring of the phone echoes in the silence of my apartment, a drumbeat leading me further into unknown territory. A deep, gravelly voice answers on the third ring, a voice that commands attention, a voice that belongs to a man who expects to be heard. "Thorne," he says, his tone clipped, impatient. My breath catches in my throat. I introduce myself, my voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor in my hands, and explain, as calmly as I can, about finding the wallet. There's a beat of silence on the other end, a pause that stretches into an eternity, filled with unspoken questions and unvoiced suspicions. I can almost feel his gaze, sharp and assessing, through the phone line. He doesn't express gratitude or even surprise, just a terse, "Where are you?" The question is not an inquiry. It's a demand, a subtle assertion of control that sends another shiver down my spine. I give him my address, my mind racing, questioning the wisdom of my decision even as the words leave my lips. He tells me he'll send someone to pick it up, not him personally. The detachment, the casual delegation of such a sensitive task, speaks volumes about his world, a world where others handle the unpleasantries, the loose ends. He hangs up without another word, leaving me standing in the silence of my apartment, the phone still pressed to my ear, a cold dread settling deep in my bones. The rupture has begun, and I am now inextricably linked to Silas Thorne. The next few hours stretch into an agonizing eternity, each tick of the clock amplifying the tension that now permeates every corner of my apartment. I find myself constantly glancing at the window, my eyes scanning the street below, searching for any sign of an approaching vehicle, a figure that might signal the arrival of Thorne's emissary. My usual routine, the comforting rhythm of my morning, has been completely derailed. The thought of seeing patients, of listening to their anxieties while my own churns beneath the surface, feels impossible. I cancel my appointments, citing a sudden, vague illness, a lie that feels heavy on my tongue. The silence of my apartment, once a sanctuary, now feels oppressive, a vacuum waiting to be filled by an unknown presence. I try to distract myself, to read, to clean, but my mind keeps returning to the wallet, to the stern face of Silas Thorne, to the chilling brevity of his phone call. Every shadow seems to deepen. Every creak of the floorboard sounds like an approaching footstep. My imagination, usually a tool for empathy and understanding, has turned against me, conjuring scenarios of escalating danger, each more vivid and terrifying than the last. The world outside my door feels suddenly hostile. A sleek, dark SUV, its windows tinted to an opaque black, glides silently to a stop directly in front of my building. My breath catches in my throat. It's exactly as I pictured it, a silent, imposing presence that screams authority and discretion. Two men emerge, dressed in impeccably tailored dark suits, their movements fluid and coordinated, like predators. They don't look around, don't acknowledge the bustling street. Their gaze is fixed solely on my building, on my window. My heart pounds against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. This is it. I open the door, my hand trembling slightly on the cold metal knob, and find myself face to face with the two men. Their expressions are unreadable, their eyes dark and watchful, missing nothing. They don't speak, simply nod curtly, their silence more intimidating than any words could have been. The air between us is thick with unspoken tension, a palpable sense of power emanating from them. I feel small, exposed, my carefully constructed world of empathy and understanding suddenly fragile in their imposing presence. My voice, when I speak, is barely a whisper. The wallet, I manage, extending it towards the taller of the two men, my hand shaking noticeably now. He takes it from me with a gloved hand, his fingers brushing mine for a fleeting moment, a touch that feels cold and impersonal. He doesn't examine it, doesn't even glance at the contents. His partner, meanwhile, scans my apartment, his eyes lingering on every detail, every personal item, as if cataloging my entire existence. I feel a profound sense of violation, as if my privacy has been irrevocably breached, my safe haven suddenly compromised. The taller man gives another curt nod, a gesture of dismissal, and then they turn, their movements as synchronized as before, and descend the stairs. The heavy thud of the building door closing behind them echoes in the sudden silence, leaving me standing in the hallway, my heart still racing, my body trembling. They are gone, and the wallet is gone. But the lingering sense of their presence, the cold weight of their gaze, remains. I lean against the doorframe, my legs feeling weak, a wave of relief washing over me, quickly followed by a fresh surge of fear. The relief is short-lived. As the day progresses, a subtle shift in my surroundings begins to make itself known. A car, parked across the street, seems to linger a little too long. A figure, always just at the periphery of my vision, appears a little too often. My phone, usually a source of connection, now feels like a potential conduit for surveillance. I find myself constantly checking my reflection in windows, half expecting to see a shadow behind me, a pair of watchful eyes. The paranoia, a concept I've often discussed with patients, is now my unwelcome companion. My once familiar neighborhood now feels alien, imbued with a new, unsettling layer of meaning. The friendly faces of my neighbors seem less reassuring, their casual greetings tinged with an imagined suspicion. I start to question everything, every glance, every casual encounter. Is this real, or is my mind playing tricks on me, a byproduct of the intense stress? The therapist in me tries to rationalize, to find logical explanations, but the primal fear, the instinct for self-preservation, overrides all reason. I am no longer just Evelyn Reed. I am a woman who has touched something dangerous. The subtle signs escalate. A package arrives at my door, unmarked, unaddressed, containing a single, pristine white orchid. It's beautiful, delicate, but its unexpected arrival, its silent message, sends a chill down my spine. It feels like a warning, a subtle reminder that I am seen, that my actions have not gone unnoticed. The beauty of the flower is overshadowed by its ominous implication, a stark contrast between elegance and veiled threat. I place it on my kitchen island, its white petals a stark, unsettling presence in my home. Later that evening, my landline rings, a jarring sound in the quiet apartment. I hesitate, my hand hovering over the receiver, a sudden reluctance to answer. It's an unknown number, a series of digits I don't recognize. I let it ring, the insistent sound echoing in the silence, each ring a hammer blow against my frayed nerves. Finally, it stops. A moment later, my cell phone vibrates. It's a text message from an unknown number. We appreciate your discretion. No name, no further explanation, just those 5 chilling words. My blood runs cold. The message confirms my worst fears. I am being watched. My discretion, my decision to return the wallet, has been noted, evaluated. It's not a thank you. It's a statement of power, a subtle assertion of their omnipresence. The world of Silas Thorne, a world I only glimpsed through a lost wallet, has now reached into my own, its tendrils wrapping around my carefully constructed life. My sense of security, once a given, has been shattered, replaced by a pervasive, suffocating fear that clings to me like a second skin. I try to confide in a friend, a colleague, but the words catch in my throat. How do I explain this? How do I articulate the feeling of being watched, the subtle threats, the chilling messages, without sounding paranoid, delusional? They would tell me to go to the police, but a deep-seated instinct, a gut feeling I can't ignore, tells me that involving the authorities would only escalate the danger, drawing me deeper into a world I don't understand. This is a problem I have to navigate alone, a burden I must carry in silence. My sleep is fractured, haunted by vivid, unsettling dreams. I see dark SUVs, unsmiling faces, the stern gaze of Silas Thorne. I wake in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, the lingering sense of dread a constant companion. The city outside my window, once a source of comfort, now feels like a vast, indifferent entity. Its anonymity no longer a shield but a potential hiding place for unseen threats. My apartment, once my sanctuary, now feels like a glass house, every move visible to unseen eyes. The orchid, still pristine and white, sits on my kitchen island, a constant reminder of the unseen forces at play. I find myself staring at it, trying to decipher its silent message, its delicate beauty a stark contrast to the ugliness of the situation. It's a symbol, I realize, of their power, their ability to reach into my life with such effortless grace, to leave their mark without ever truly showing their hand. It's a chilling display of control, a silent warning that resonates deep within my bones. My work, usually a source of fulfillment, becomes a struggle. My ability to focus, to truly listen, is compromised by the constant hum of anxiety beneath the surface. I find myself projecting my own fears onto my patients, seeing threats where there are none, interpreting their anxieties through the lens of my own burgeoning paranoia. The irony is not lost on me. The healer is now in need of healing, the therapist grappling with her own unraveling psyche. My professional facade feels thin, fragile, ready to crack at any moment. I start taking different routes to work, varying my schedule, constantly checking my rearview mirror. The simple act of walking down the street, once a mindless routine, now feels like a tactical exercise. Every step calculated, every shadow scrutinized. I feel like a character in a suspense novel, a protagonist caught in a web of intrigue. But this isn't fiction. This is my life, and the stakes are terrifyingly real. The city, once my home, has become a labyrinth of potential dangers, each turn a new uncertainty. The feeling of being watched intensifies, a constant pressure, a subtle weight on my shoulders. I can almost feel their eyes on me, even when I'm alone in my apartment, the silence broken only by the frantic beat of my own heart. I am living in a state of perpetual vigilance, my senses heightened, my nerves frayed. The world has become a dangerous place, and I, Evelyn Reed, am no longer an innocent bystander. I am a pawn in a game I don't understand. A game initiated by the simple act of returning a lost wallet. The invitation arrives discreetly, tucked beneath my apartment door. A thick cream-colored envelope with no return address, no stamp. Inside, a single card, elegantly embossed, requests my presence at a private dinner. The date is tomorrow evening. The location a secluded mansion in the very affluent neighborhood where Silas Thorne's address was listed. There's no explicit mention of the wallet, no direct threat, just a subtle, undeniable implication that my attendance is not optional. My hands tremble as I read the elegant script, the words a silken trap, drawing me deeper into their world. Panic, cold and sharp, claws at my throat. This isn't a request. It's a summons. My carefully constructed facade of normalcy, already cracking, threatens to shatter completely. Every instinct screams at me to run, to disappear, to sever all ties with this dangerous, unseen force. But a deeper, more unsettling realization dawns on me. Running is not an option. They know where I live. They have my number. They have demonstrated their reach. To refuse would be to invite a far more direct, far more unpleasant confrontation. I am caught, a fly in a spider's web. I spend the day in a haze of anxiety, my mind racing, trying to anticipate every possible scenario, every potential danger. What do they want? Why a dinner? Is this a test, a warning, or something far more sinister? My therapist's mind, usually so adept at dissecting motives and understanding human behavior, is utterly useless here. The rules of their world are alien to me. their language unspoken, their intentions veiled in layers of power and intimidation. I feel like I'm walking into a lion's den, utterly unprepared. As evening approaches, I choose my outfit with meticulous care, opting for a simple, elegant black dress, something understated yet respectable. I want to project an image of calm competence, of quiet strength, even as my insides churn with fear. My reflection in the mirror shows a woman I barely recognize, her eyes wide and shadowed, a mask of forced composure barely concealing the terror beneath. This isn't a social event, it's a performance, and my life might depend on how well I play my part. The address leads me down a winding, tree-lined road, past imposing gates and manicured lawns, until I arrive at a sprawling modern mansion, its glass and steel facade gleaming under the moonlight. The sheer scale of the place is intimidating, a testament to immense wealth and power. A uniformed guard, his face impassive, opens the heavy iron gates with a silent nod, and I drive through, my small car feeling utterly out of place in this opulent landscape. The air itself feels different here, heavier, charged with an unspoken authority. I park my car in a vast empty driveway, the only other vehicle a sleek black sedan that I recognize from my earlier encounter. The front door, a massive slab of dark wood, swings open silently as I approach, revealing a dimly lit foyer. The interior is minimalist, stark, yet undeniably luxurious, filled with modern art and expensive, understated furniture. The silence within the house is profound, almost suffocating, broken only by the soft echo of my own footsteps on the polished marble floor. My heart pounds a frantic rhythm against my ribs. A man emerges from the shadows, not Silas Thorne, but one of the men who came to my apartment, his face still unreadable. He gestures towards a set of double doors, his silence a command. I walk past him, my senses on high alert, every nerve ending screaming. The doors open into a vast dining room, where a single long table is set for two, and at the head of that table, bathed in the soft glow of a chandelier, sits Silas Thorne. He rises as I enter, his movements fluid, powerful, his eyes, those piercing eyes, fixed on me. He doesn't smile, doesn't offer a greeting, just a subtle inclination of his head, a gesture that is both formal and dismissive. "Dr. Reed," he says, his voice the same gravelly tone from the phone, but now imbued with a chilling presence that fills the vast room. "Thank you for coming." The words are polite, but the underlying current is one of absolute control, an expectation of obedience. I feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to bolt, to scream, but my feet are rooted to the spot, my voice trapped in my throat. I take the seat he indicates, directly opposite him at the long table, the distance between us feeling vast, yet intensely intimate. The table is set with exquisite china and crystal, the meal already laid out, a perfectly cooked steak, roasted vegetables, a glass of deep red wine. It's a bizarre, surreal scene, this elegant dinner with a man who embodies danger. He watches me, his gaze unwavering as I pick up my fork, my hand shaking so violently I almost drop it. The food, no doubt delicious, tastes like ash in my mouth. He finally speaks, his voice low, measured, cutting through the tense silence. "You returned my wallet." It's not a question, but a statement of fact, a confirmation of my actions. "Most people," he continues, his eyes never leaving mine, "would have kept the money, or tried to use the cards." His words are laced with a subtle challenge, a test of my character, my morality. I feel a sudden surge of defiance, a flicker of the professional I am, the woman who believes in integrity. "It wasn't mine," I reply, my voice surprisingly steady, meeting his gaze directly. "It's the right thing to do." A ghost of a smile, fleeting and almost imperceptible, touches his lips, a chilling acknowledgement. "Right," he echoes, the word imbued with a different meaning in his mouth, a meaning I can only guess at. He takes a sip of his wine, his movements deliberate, unhurried, as if he has all the time in the world, and I, all the patience. The power dynamic is clear, undeniable. "I appreciate your honesty, Dr. Reed," he says, his tone shifting slightly, a hint of something almost akin to respect. It's a rare commodity these days. He pauses, his eyes still fixed on mine, and then the true purpose of this dinner begins to unfold. I have a problem, Dr. Reed. A delicate situation that requires a certain understanding of the human mind, a certain discretion. My blood runs cold. He's not just thanking me. He's recruiting me, drawing me deeper into his world. He outlines the situation in vague, unsettling terms. A colleague who is becoming unreliable, a situation that needs to be managed. He speaks in euphemisms, in veiled suggestions, but the underlying message is clear. He wants me to use my skills, my expertise as a therapist, to manipulate, to control, to extract information. The moral dilemma that has been simmering beneath the surface now explodes, a searing conflict between my professional ethics and the terrifying reality of my situation. My mind races, searching for an escape, a way out of this impossible predicament. To refuse would be to invite his wrath, to put myself in direct opposition to a man who clearly wields immense power. To accept would be to betray everything I believe in, to become a tool in his dangerous game. The choice is stark, terrifying, a precipice from which there is no easy path. My heart pounds, a frantic bird trapped in a cage, as I stare across the table at the unyielding gaze of Silas Thorne. I can't, I whisper, the word barely audible, but firm. My ethics. I can't do that. The silence that follows is deafening, heavy with unspoken consequences. His expression remains unchanged, but I feel the shift in the air, the subtle tightening of his jaw, the hardening of his eyes. The polite veneer has cracked, revealing the steel beneath. I have crossed a line, challenged his authority, and the repercussions, I know, will be severe. The elegant dinner has become a battlefield, and I am utterly outmatched. The silence stretches, thick and suffocating, each second amplifying the weight of my refusal. Silas Thorne's gaze, once merely intense, now feels like a physical pressure, pinning me to my seat. The air in the opulent dining room, moments ago filled with the subtle aroma of expensive food, now feels thin, devoid of oxygen. I can feel the blood draining from my face, my hands clammy beneath the table. My defiance, a fleeting spark, is quickly being extinguished by the chilling reality of his power, the undeniable threat that emanates from his unmoving form. He finally speaks, his voice a low rumble that seems to vibrate through the very floorboards. "Dr. Reed," he says, his tone devoid of any warmth, any hint of the earlier, almost respectful politeness. "You misunderstand the nature of this conversation. This is not a negotiation. It is an opportunity to ensure your continued well-being." The words are delivered with a chilling calm, a casual brutality that sends a fresh wave of terror through me. The veiled threat is now laid bare, stark and undeniable. My mind races, desperately searching for a way out, a loophole, any path that doesn't lead to either moral compromise or outright danger. The therapist in me, the part that analyzes, that seeks solutions, is screaming. But the primal fear, the instinct for survival, is louder. I am trapped, caught between an immovable object and an irresistible force. The elegant dinner, the beautiful mansion, the carefully constructed facade of civility all crumble away, revealing the brutal reality of the world I have stumbled into. He leans forward slightly, his eyes never leaving mine, and the movement, subtle as it is, feels like a predator preparing to strike. "Your skills, Dr. Reed, are unique, valuable. It would be a shame to see them wasted." The implication hangs heavy in the air, a thinly veiled threat against my career, my reputation, perhaps even my life. He knows my vulnerabilities, my attachments, my carefully built professional identity. He is not just threatening me, he is threatening the very foundation of my existence. A cold sweat breaks out on my forehead, and I can feel a tremor running through my entire body. The food on my plate, once an object of indifference, now seems to mock me, a symbol of the life I am rapidly losing control over. I try to formulate a response, a plea, a desperate attempt to reason with him, but the words catch in my throat, choked by fear. My carefully constructed world, built on empathy and ethical boundaries, is collapsing around me, piece by agonizing piece. He sits back, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips, as if enjoying my visible distress. Think about it, Dr. Reed. Think about the consequences of refusing. Think about the inconvenience it would cause, not just for you, but for those you care about. The casual mention of those I care about sends a jolt of pure, unadulterated fear through me. He knows about my family, my friends. He has done his research. My personal life, once a private sanctuary, is now a weapon in his arsenal. The realization hits me with the force of a physical blow. I have no choice. My ethics, my principles, my carefully cultivated sense of right and wrong are irrelevant in this world. Survival is the only imperative. The thought is bitter, a poison that seeps into every fiber of my being. But it is also undeniably true. I am not in a position to negotiate, to refuse. I am a pawn, and my only option is to play the game, however reluctantly, however painfully. What do you want me to do? I ask, my voice a mere whisper, barely recognizable as my own. The words taste like ash, a surrender that feels like a betrayal of my very soul. But the relief, the sudden easing of the suffocating pressure, is undeniable. I have chosen, however unwillingly, and the immediate threat, for now, has receded. He smiles then, a genuine, if chilling, smile, a victor acknowledging his conquest. "Excellent, Dr. Reed," he says, his voice regaining a hint of its earlier politeness, a terrifying shift that signals my compliance. "I knew you were a woman of practical understanding." He then proceeds to outline the details, still vague, still couched in euphemisms, but now with a clear expectation of my involvement. I am to meet with this colleague, to assess him, to guide him. The terms are clinical, professional, but the underlying purpose is sinister, manipulative. I listen, my mind numb, as he speaks of schedules, of discrete meetings, of the importance of maintaining appearances. He emphasizes the need for absolute secrecy, for my complete loyalty. The consequences of any deviation, any betrayal, are left unsaid, but the unspoken threat hangs heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the precariousness of my situation. I am no longer just a therapist. I am an unwilling agent in his dangerous network, my skills twisted to serve his dark purposes. The dinner continues, a bizarre charade of civility, as if we are two ordinary people discussing a mundane business arrangement. I nod. I offer non-committal responses, my mind reeling, trying to process the enormity of what has just transpired. The food, once unpalatable, now feels like a heavy weight in my stomach, a physical manifestation of the burden I now carry. My life, my identity, everything I thought I knew about myself, has been irrevocably altered in the space of a single evening. He dismisses me with a curt nod, the same gesture of dismissal from his men, a clear indication of my place in his hierarchy. I rise from the table, my legs feeling unsteady, and walk out of the dining room, through the silent foyer, and back into the cool night air. The mansion, once an intimidating symbol of power, now feels like a gilded cage, its opulence a stark contrast to the darkness that now resides within me. I am free to leave, but I am no longer free. I drive home in a daze, the city lights blurring into an indistinct haze. The familiar streets, once a source of comfort, now feel alien, imbued with a new, unsettling meaning. Every shadow seems to hold a hidden threat, every passing car a potential surveillance. The paranoia, which had been a subtle hum, is now a roaring crescendo, a constant companion that will undoubtedly cling to me for the foreseeable future. My world has been turned upside down, and there is no going back. Back in my apartment, the silence is no longer comforting. It is deafening, filled with the echoes of Thorne's words, the chilling implications of my forced compliance. I look at my reflection in the darkened window, seeing not the confident therapist I once was, but a woman irrevocably changed, her eyes haunted, her spirit bruised. The wallet, the innocent object that started it all, now feels like a cursed artifact, a Pandora's box that has unleashed a torrent of darkness into my life. The orchid, still pristine and white, sits on my kitchen island, its delicate beauty now a symbol of my gilded cage, my unwilling servitude. It's a constant reminder of the power that holds me, the unseen forces that dictate my every move. I am a therapist, yes, but I am also a pawn, a tool in a game far beyond my comprehension, a game initiated by the simple act of returning a lost wallet. The future stretches before me, a dark and uncertain path, and I am forced to walk it, however reluctantly, however fearfully. The phone rings, a jarring sound in the stillness of my apartment. I jump, my heart leaping into my throat, my nerves frayed beyond repair. I glance at the caller ID, an unknown number. I hesitate, my hand trembling, but a deep-seated instinct, a new kind of understanding, tells me I must answer. This is my new reality, a life dictated by the whims of Silas Thorne, a life where every phone call, every unexpected knock, holds the potential for danger. I take a deep breath, steel myself, and answer the call. The phone call is brief, the voice on the other end a calm, professional female, scheduling my first consultation for the following morning. She provides an address, a discreet office building downtown, and a time. There are no pleasantries, no room for questions, just a clear, concise directive. I hang up, the receiver feeling heavy in my hand, the reality of my new situation settling over me like a shroud. This is it. The first step into the abyss, a journey I never asked for, a path paved by a single, misplaced wallet. My carefully constructed life, once a beacon of order and control, now feels like a house of cards, teetering on the brink of collapse. Sleep offers no escape, only a restless, fragmented torment filled with shadowy figures and whispered threats. I wake before dawn, the city still cloaked in a pre-morning hush, feeling more exhausted than when I lay down. The weight of the impending day presses down on me, a physical burden that makes every movement feel sluggish, every thought clouded. I go through the motions of my morning routine, each action mechanical, devoid of the usual comfort they once provided. The mirror reflects a stranger, her eyes hollow, her face etched with a fear I can no longer hide. The drive downtown is a blur of familiar streets that now feel alien, each turn a step further away from the life I knew. The office building is unassuming, blending seamlessly with its corporate neighbors, a facade of normalcy that belies the hidden world within. There's no grand entrance, no overt display of power, just a quiet efficiency that speaks volumes. I park my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel, a sudden wave of nausea washing over me. This is where it begins, the transformation from healer to accomplice, from therapist to tool. Inside, the lobby is sparsely populated, hushed, the air thick with an unspoken tension. A receptionist, impeccably dressed and with eyes that seem to see everything, directs me to a private elevator. The ride up is silent, the ascent feeling less like a climb and more like a descent into an unknown depth. Each floor passed is another layer of my old life peeling away, leaving me exposed, vulnerable. The doors open onto a corridor that is stark, modern, and utterly devoid of personal touches, a sterile environment designed for efficiency, not comfort. The office itself is minimalist, a large desk, a few chairs, and a panoramic view of the city that feels more like a surveillance vantage point than a place of contemplation. The colleague I am to assess is already there, a man in his late 40s, his face a roadmap of stress and exhaustion. He looks at me with a mixture of suspicion and resignation, his eyes holding a haunted quality that I recognize instantly. He is a prisoner, just like me, albeit one who has been in this cage far longer. I sit opposite him, the polished surface of the desk between us feeling like an unbridgeable chasm. My professional instincts kick in, a familiar comfort in the face of the unfamiliar. I begin with the usual opening questions, my voice calm and measured, a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within me. He answers in clipped, wary tones, his body language guarded, his gaze darting around the room as if expecting an unseen observer. He is a man living on the edge, constantly anticipating a blow. His name is Marco, and he is, or was, a key player in Thorne's organization. He speaks of pressure, of impossible demands, of the constant fear of making a mistake. His words are carefully chosen, devoid of specifics, but the underlying emotion is raw, palpable. He is unraveling, slowly but surely, the weight of his world crushing him. My role, I realize with a sickening lurch, is not to heal him, but to understand his breaking point, to assess his utility, to determine if he can still be controlled. The session is a perverse parody of my usual work. I am probing, yes, but not for his well-being. I am looking for weaknesses, for leverage, for the cracks in his facade that Thorne can exploit. Every empathetic nod, every carefully phrased question, feels like a betrayal of my oath, a desecration of my profession. My stomach churns with self-loathing, but I push it down, focusing on the task at hand. Survival, I remind myself, is the only imperative now. Marco, sensing my true purpose, grows increasingly agitated. He speaks of loyalty, of family, of the impossible choices he has been forced to make. His voice rises, a desperate plea for understanding, for absolution. He is a man drowning, and I, the supposed rescuer, am merely there to observe his struggle, to report on the efficacy of his flailing. The irony is a bitter taste in my mouth, a constant reminder of the moral quicksand I am sinking into. I try to maintain a neutral expression, to keep my questions clinical, but a part of me, the part that still believes in genuine human connection, aches for him. I see his fear, his despair, his profound sense of entrapment, and I recognize it as my own. We are two sides of the same coin, two victims of the same ruthless system, forced into a macabre dance by a man who views us as mere instruments to be played. The session ends, leaving me emotionally drained and morally compromised. I report my findings to Thorne's female assistant, a woman whose placid demeanor hides an unsettling efficiency. I choose my words carefully, providing a clinical assessment of Marco's mental state, his vulnerabilities, his potential for further compliance or rebellion. Each word feels like a nail in his coffin, a step further down a path I never wanted to take. I return to my apartment, the city lights blurring through my windshield, feeling utterly hollowed out. The weight of what I have done, what I have become, presses down on me, suffocating me. The orchid on my kitchen island, once a symbol of veiled threat, now feels like a monument to my lost innocence. Its pristine white petals, a stark reminder of the purity I have sacrificed. My home, once a sanctuary, now feels like a prison cell. The days that follow blur into a monotonous cycle of fear and forced compliance. I am given more clients, each one a different facet of Thorne's intricate network, each one a new moral compromise. I learn to navigate their guarded words, their unspoken fears, their desperate hopes, all while suppressing my own burgeoning despair. I become adept at reading between the lines, at extracting the information Thorne needs, my skills honed into a weapon against the very people I once sought to help. My professional life, once a source of pride, becomes a source of shame. I lie to my remaining patients, to my friends, creating elaborate excuses for my erratic schedule, my distracted demeanor. The guilt is a constant companion, a heavy stone in my stomach that never quite dissipates. I see the concern in their eyes, the unspoken questions, and I offer only vague reassurances, knowing that the truth would shatter their perception of me, and perhaps my own. The subtle surveillance continues, a constant reminder of Thorne's omnipresence. The dark SUV still occasionally appears on my street. The unknown texts still arrive, brief and to the point, confirming my every move is noted. I live in a state of perpetual vigilance, my senses heightened, my nerves frayed. The city, once a vibrant backdrop to my life, has become a labyrinth of potential threats, each shadow a possible watcher, each stranger a potential informant. I start to notice patterns, connections, the intricate web of Thorne's influence. The colleagues I assess are not just random individuals, they are pieces of a larger puzzle, their anxieties and vulnerabilities carefully catalogued, their loyalty constantly tested. I am not just a therapist, I am an intelligence gatherer, a psychological profiler. My insights used to maintain control, to prevent betrayal, to solidify Thorne's power. The realization is chilling, a testament to the depth of his manipulation. A strange sense of detachment begins to set in, a coping mechanism against the overwhelming guilt and fear. I observe my own actions as if from a distance, a character in a play I am forced to perform. The emotional toll is immense, but I learn to compartmentalize, to push down the feelings, to focus on the task at hand. It is the only way to survive, to maintain a semblance of sanity in a world that has gone utterly insane. One evening, a new message arrives. Not a directive, but an invitation. Thorne wants to see me again, this time at a private art gallery opening. It's a public event, a stark contrast to the clandestine meetings, a deliberate display of his power and influence. He wants me to be seen with him, to be associated with his world, to further entrench me in his network. The invitation is a gilded cage, a public declaration of my unwilling allegiance. I attend, dressed in the same black dress, my face a carefully constructed mask of composure. The gallery is filled with the city's elite, their laughter and chatter a superficial hum against the backdrop of expensive art. Thorne is there, a commanding presence, surrounded by a retinue of silent, watchful men. He greets me with a subtle nod, a possessive gesture that makes my skin crawl. I am his, a trophy, a symbol of his reach. He introduces me to various people, powerful figures in business and politics, each interaction a subtle dance of power and influence. I play my part, offering polite smiles and intelligent conversation, my mind racing, trying to decipher the unspoken dynamics, the hidden agendas. I am no longer just Evelyn Reed, therapist. I am Evelyn Reed, associate of Silas Thorne, a woman whose presence commands a certain unsettling respect. The experience is surreal, a bizarre blend of glamour and menace. I am surrounded by wealth and power, yet I feel more trapped than ever. The smiles are superficial, the conversations laced with hidden meanings, the entire atmosphere charged with an unspoken tension. I see the fear in some eyes, the ambition in others, the ruthless calculation in all. This is Thorne's world, and I am now a part of it, however unwillingly. As the evening progresses, Thorne pulls me aside, his voice low, almost a whisper, yet carrying an undeniable authority. He speaks of a new project, a more complex undertaking that will require my full attention. He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. My involvement is deepening, the stakes are rising. My heart pounds against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a gilded cage as I realize there is no easy escape from this web. He watches my reaction, his eyes piercing, assessing, as if trying to gauge the depth of my compliance, the limits of my endurance. I meet his gaze, my own eyes betraying nothing, a carefully constructed facade of calm. I have learned to play the game, to hide my fear, to project an image of strength, even as my insides churn with terror. This is my new reality, a constant performance, a perpetual state of heightened alert. The project involves a prominent politician, a man whose public image is pristine, but whose private life, Thorne hints, is a tapestry of carefully concealed secrets. My task, he explains, is to understand him, to find the leverage, the vulnerabilities that can be exploited. It is a direct assault on my ethical core, a demand to use my skills for pure manipulation, for political gain. The moral quicksand deepens, threatening to swallow me whole. I return home, the city lights blurring through my windshield, feeling utterly defeated. The glamour of the evening, the superficial charm of Thorne's world, has faded, leaving behind only the cold, hard reality of my predicament. I am a tool, a weapon in his arsenal, my skills twisted to serve his ruthless ambition. The thought is a bitter pill, a constant reminder of the person I am becoming, the person I am forced to be. The orchid on my kitchen island, once a symbol of veiled threat, now feels like a monument to my lost self. Its pristine white petals a stark reminder of the purity I have sacrificed. My home, once a sanctuary, now feels like a prison cell, its walls closing in on me, trapping me in a life I never chose. The silence is no longer comforting. It is deafening, filled with the echoes of Thorne's words, the chilling implications of my forced compliance. I stand by the window, looking out at the city, its vastness no longer a comfort but a symbol of my isolation. A million lives unfold below, each one oblivious to the silent drama playing out in my apartment, the moral battle raging within me. I am alone in this, utterly alone, with no one to confide in, no one to turn to. The weight of the secret, the burden of my complicity, is immense, crushing. My phone vibrates, a new message from an unknown number. It's a picture, a candid shot of me at the art gallery standing next to Thorne, a faint, forced smile on my face. The caption is simple, chilling. A good start, Dr. Reed. We look forward to your continued cooperation. It's a reminder, a subtle assertion of his omnipresence, his control. He is always watching, always aware. The image stares back at me, a stark reflection of my new reality. I am no longer just Evelyn Reed, therapist. I am Evelyn Reed, associate of Silas Thorne, a woman whose life has been irrevocably altered by a single misplaced wallet. The future stretches before me, a dark and uncertain path, and I am forced to walk it, however reluctantly, however fearfully, forever bound to the man who found his wallet. The ethical dilemma that once tormented me has now transformed into a desperate struggle for survival. I am no longer debating right and wrong. I am navigating a treacherous landscape where every decision is a compromise, every action a potential pitfall. The line between victim and accomplice blurs, and I find myself questioning who I am, what I am capable of, and how much of my soul I am willing to sacrifice to stay alive. The thought of escape, once a desperate fantasy, now feels like a distant, unattainable dream. Thorne's reach is too vast, his network too intricate, his control too absolute. I am caught in his web, and every attempt to break free only seems to tighten the silken threads around me. My life is no longer my own. It is a carefully orchestrated performance, a role I am forced to play until the final curtain falls. I find myself constantly analyzing, not just others, but myself. I observe my own reactions, my own emotions, trying to understand the changes taking place within me. The fear is still there, a constant hum beneath the surface, but it is now mingled with a strange sense of resignation, a chilling acceptance of my fate. I am adapting, evolving, becoming the person Thorne needs me to be, and the realization is terrifying. The city outside my window, once a source of comfort, now feels like a vast, indifferent entity. Its anonymity no longer a shield, but a potential hiding place for unseen threats. My apartment, once my sanctuary, now feels like a glass house, every move visible to unseen eyes. The world has become a dangerous place, and I, Evelyn Reed, am no longer an innocent bystander. I am a pawn in a game I don't understand, a game initiated by the simple act of returning a lost wallet. The silence of my apartment, once a sanctuary, now feels oppressive, a vacuum waiting to be filled by an unknown presence. I try to distract myself, to read, to clean, but my mind keeps returning to the wallet, to the stern face of Silas Thorne, to the chilling brevity of his phone call. Every shadow seems to deepen. Every creak of the floorboard sounds like an approaching footstep. My imagination, usually a tool for empathy and understanding, has turned against me, conjuring scenarios of escalating danger, each more vivid and terrifying than the last. The world outside my door feels suddenly hostile. My once familiar neighborhood now feels alien, imbued with a new, unsettling layer of meaning. The friendly faces of my neighbors seem less reassuring, their casual greetings tinged with an imagined suspicion. I start to question everything, every glance, every casual encounter. Is this real? Or is my mind playing tricks on me, a byproduct of the intense stress? The therapist in me tries to rationalize, to find logical explanations, but the primal fear, the instinct for self-preservation, overrides all reason. I am no longer just Evelyn Reed. I am a woman who has touched something dangerous. The subtle signs escalate. A package arrives at my door, unmarked, unaddressed, containing a single, pristine white orchid. It's beautiful, delicate, but its unexpected arrival, its silent message, sends a chill down my spine. It feels like a warning, a subtle reminder that I am seen, that my actions have not gone unnoticed. The beauty of the flower is overshadowed by its ominous implication, a stark contrast between elegance and veiled threat. I place it on my kitchen island, its white petals a stark, unsettling presence in my home. Later that evening, my landline rings, a jarring sound in the quiet apartment. I hesitate, my hand hovering over the receiver, a sudden reluctance to answer. It's an unknown number, a series of digits I don't recognize. I let it ring, the insistent sound echoing in the silence, each ring a hammer blow against my frayed nerves. Finally, it stops. A moment later, my cell phone vibrates. It's a text message from an unknown number. We appreciate your discretion. No name, no further explanation, just those 5 chilling words. My blood runs cold. The message confirms my worst fears. I am being watched. My discretion, my decision to return the wallet, has been noted, evaluated. It's not a thank you. It's a statement of power, a subtle assertion of their omnipresence. The world of Silas Thorne, a world I only glimpsed through a lost wallet, has now reached into my own, its tendrils wrapping around my carefully constructed life. My sense of security, once a given, has been shattered, replaced by a pervasive, suffocating fear that clings to me like a second skin. I try to confide in a friend, a colleague, but the words catch in my throat. How do I explain this? How do I articulate the feeling of being watched, the subtle threats, the chilling messages without sounding paranoid, delusional? They would tell me to go to the police, but a deep-seated instinct, a gut feeling I can't ignore, tells me that involving the authorities would only escalate the danger, drawing me deeper into a world I don't understand. This is a problem I have to navigate alone, a burden I must carry in silence. My sleep is fractured, haunted by vivid, unsettling dreams. I see dark SUVs, unsmiling faces, the stern gaze of Silas Thorne. I wake in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, the lingering sense of dread a constant companion. The city outside my window, once a source of comfort, now feels like a vast, indifferent entity, its anonymity no longer a shield but a potential hiding place for unseen threats. My apartment, once my sanctuary, now feels like a glass house, every move visible to unseen eyes. The orchid, still pristine and white, sits on my kitchen island, a constant reminder of the unseen forces at play. I find myself staring at it, trying to decipher its silent message, its delicate beauty a stark contrast to the ugliness of the situation. It's a symbol, I realize, of their power, their ability to reach into my life with such effortless grace, to leave their mark without ever truly showing their hand. It's a chilling display of control, a silent warning that resonates deep within my bones. My work, usually a source of fulfillment, becomes a struggle. My ability to focus, to truly listen, is compromised by the constant hum of anxiety beneath the surface. I find myself projecting my own fears onto my patients, seeing threats where there are none, interpreting their anxieties through the lens of my own burgeoning paranoia. The irony is not lost on me. The healer is now in need of healing, the therapist grappling with her own unraveling psyche. My professional facade feels thin, fragile, ready to crack at any moment. I start taking different routes to work, varying my schedule, constantly checking my rearview mirror. The simple act of walking down the street, once a mindless routine, now feels like a tactical exercise. Every step calculated, every shadow scrutinized. I feel like a character in a suspense novel, a protagonist caught in a web of intrigue. But this isn't fiction. This is my life, and the stakes are terrifyingly real. The city, once my home, has become a labyrinth of potential dangers, each turn a new uncertainty. The feeling of being watched intensifies, a constant pressure, a subtle weight on my shoulders. I can almost feel their eyes on me, even when I'm alone in my apartment, the silence broken only by the frantic beat of my own heart. I am living in a state of perpetual vigilance, my senses heightened, my nerves frayed. The world has become a dangerous place, and I, Evelyn Reed, am no longer an innocent bystander. I am a pawn in a game I don't understand, a game initiated by the simple act of returning a lost wallet.